the U.S. because the U.S. isn't necessarily
safe and welcoming right now. In the U.S. because the U.S. isn't necessarily safe and welcoming right now. You try and think about, okay, where can I live? Well, I definitely want to live in a place where they don't have a military base. Because what? Because of the escalation and the conflicts around the world, and now the U.S., the homeland can be hit. Well, you can't be in Hawaii because Hawaii, they have budgets everywhere. You can't be in California. You can't be in Florida. You can't be in all of these places that are easily accessible. They're thinking about leaving the U.S. because the U.S. isn't necessarily safe and welcoming right now. You try and think about, okay, where can I live? Well, I definitely want to live in a place where they don't have a military base. Because what? Because of the escalation and the conflicts around the world, and now the U.S., the homeland can be hit. Well, you can't be in Hawaii because Hawaii, they have budgets everywhere. You can't be in California. You can't be in Florida. You can't be in all of these places that are easily accessible. They're thinking about leaving the U.S. because
So talk about that. I agree with them. Where can you go? That's why you have to build a spiritual ark and have a relationship with Christ. Because we sit in the physical, we can't see all that need to be seen. We can't see the full picture. We have to rely on that spiritual relationship. That's my opinion. I need guidance. I need someone to tell me right here clearly, speak to me, say, I need you to do this. Go here, go there. We're getting back to a time where, and it's always been vital to have a spiritual relationship with Christ. It's always been there. He's always there. We just don't acknowledge him anymore. And now we need him more than ever because we're looking over here, looking over there for direction in our physical, and it's not getting us anywhere but panic and chaos.
So what did you hear from God? What did God say to you?
Get up
How
and
did
go.
you end up here?
Get up and go. Leave. A while ago when I was asked, would I live out of the country, I resisted to the idea. I said I wasn't that part of it. I resisted. And up until recently, question came to me again, and I was ready. There was no resistance in it. There was no pause, no anything. It was like, okay. I assume I was ready. Back then I wasn't. But it's just been leading of the Spirit, leading by the Lord, letting the Lord lead you and guide you. There was no tug, no pull, no struggle. It was peace in that decision. Before it was kind of chaotic and just total resistance.
So did God just say to you, go here? Did he point to a spot on the map? Like, what was the process of you saying, okay, I'm moving to Kenya? How did you know Kenya was the right move for you?
Honestly, I did not know. The Lord speak to me sometimes. I'm starting to see right now it's through my family members, man, me and my wife. For the Lord to get to me sometimes, I guess it's because sometimes I'm just hard to reach or whatnot. I have no idea. Maybe I'm not as in tune that I would like to be as my wife is, So, but when she brought the idea from it, there was no resistance on my part. I wasn't even thinking about it. I was just going about the daily routine, handling business, going to work, taking care of this and that. And she presented the questions to me, and I was like, okay, I'm cool with it.
Now, do you feel that if the roles were reversed, your wife would have followed you? Like, had you said, not followed you, but of course she's going to follow you. She's your helpmate. But maybe that's just her, and I don't want to say role because I don't want women to jump on me there. But do you feel like that is her calling, is to be a helpmate? You're busy working, holding down the day to day. She's praying. She's doing, what wives do, which is being that prayer warrior, being in the prayer closet, being consecrated. It all starts with the head. So maybe it was your spirit of leadership through Christ that allowed her to support. It doesn't mean you're not navigating the ship just because she has the map. So you have the steering wheel and she has the map. You know what I'm saying? You can't steer and have the map.
You can't do it all.
Yeah.
I mean, that's to be stressed out. That's why you have the help.
So, do you feel that God took confidence in knowing that you would trust God to take the wheel
Absolutely.
with your hands on the wheel?
I'll take my hands off the wheel willingly.
Right. But in physicality, you have your hands on the wheel to go in the direction that he's sending you to go, right?
Right.
So my question for you is, do you feel that maybe God is leading Terrence Howard to move abroad? Because so many men of God who go into science begin to debunk that God is real. But Terrence Howard happens to be one of the few people that actually, in all his genius, because he's created a lot of things. A lot of people, if you don't know, they need to look it up. But he's created a lot of the technology that's out today is from his actual creations. But he believes in the ultimate creator. He believes that, in Jesus, So what your wife's process, did she explain to you what she was seeing or what the Lord was showing her? Did you care, or were you just like, you know what, I need to hear from God? Did you take it and pray about it? What happened?
Well, every time my wife says something, I listen to it. Sometimes I may not want to hear it, but I know there's truth in it. As I said before, I feel she's more in tune than I am. But
Well, I spoke with your wife, and she said that if she was in a situation where you came to her and you said, hey, God is leading me to go in this direction, she said that she wouldn't be as willing to just go because her faith is not as strong as yours. She feels the same way about you that you feel about her.
I think if Rose returned, she would have a lot of questions that I would not have answers for. Because my first response is, I don't know. Say with no shame.
So she comes to you. She tells you we're moving to halfway around the world. And you just said, okay.
Yeah.
That's faith. That's
yeah.
trusting in your partner on a whole nother level.
Yep.
You two must be extremely close. So are you saying that you trusted her? Are you saying that you were trusting her no matter, like you guys, is it that you guys are extremely close?
I'll say so. She'd probably disagree.
So, what about your kids? What at that point? So you knew that you were going to have to pick up and change your whole life overnight, and there was never a point that you doubted this. That you were like, maybe my wife wasn't hearing from God.
No, not at all. Because life is a journey, and like I said before, if I were to stay in my old life, I probably would be satisfied and happy, just live my day out there. But when I leave and meet my Heavenly Father and see all the things that I could have done, places I could have gone, all the things I could have done, I would have missed out on, and that's not a journey, that's just being stagnant, you're just staying there. When God has more and more for you to say and do and go, you choose to stay there. That's not living, that's just living in stagnation. So when the opportunity came again, I was ready to move. I'm like, yeah, sure, what we got to do?
So you were ready to, something in your spirit was leaping for the journey. Because basically what you're saying is when you were going to be standing before the Lord, you wanted your life to be fulfilled. You didn't want to feel like you hadn't experienced life.
Yeah, because I was in there. I was one person. I was more than one person. I was a dad, still a dad. I'm a husband. I'm an educator. What if it stopped right there? What I could have been, I don't know, some kind of philanthropist and helping out the world. But yes, I chose to be in that one place where God placed me, and I chose to stay there. But he had far more places for me to go and more things for me to do, as a servant should. But what if I chose not to do that?
Right.
And I think that's a situation that a lot of us have to face. Is this good enough where I am, or is there more for me to do? And there's more for you to do. God didn't just put you in that one place to do one thing for the rest of your life.
Right.
You know.
Was there ever a disciple that stayed in one place?
No, she was plenty of them. I think it was it one story about Jonah? You want to stay in one place? I'm not sure about the whole story.
Well, I mean, that was assigned to stay in one place. I think every disciple was designed to go.
Yeah.
So, as children of God, are we looking at our walk with God separately than the example that God gave, that all of his disciples travailed?
Well, they must have saw something in themselves and in Jesus to follow him, because they had well-established lives. They had roots sit there. They just to get a pack up and go. That was something. I mean,
That's my question for you is, as a child of God in modern day time, with modern day Christians, do you feel Christians are not understanding that part of their walk with God is to physically walk and physically go? Let me ask the question again. I know kids can be distracting. It's okay.
And the toe just came out of nowhere.
In your walk, and do you feel like modern day Christians are not understanding that they are going to have to physically walk with God in these last days?
Absolutely, and I stated this earlier. I mean, and it's getting to that point where we're not going to have no choice but to believe on it, because all our systems are going to fail. All our plans are going to fall through. And what you're left with. Now you got to try to, at a late time in this game or in this stage of life, you got to develop a relationship with Christ. Not so much him developing it with you, but you developing it with him. He's always with you. You just don't acknowledge him. And to do that at a late stage in the game, it's going to be kind of tough, because it's going to take a lot of trust on your part, on our part, to trust him. Because where I am now, I was not this way a couple of years back. I did not have a relationship with Christ as I have now. Even though he was always there, it's just the key factor was me not acknowledging him in all I'm doing and all I'm thinking about. Seeking his wisdom, not mine. Seek first the kingdom of God, in all you do.
And so do you feel Christians are seeking ye first the kingdom of God? Are they seeking more financial stability? Things that don't actually...
Financial stability they're seeking most. That's why we have these problems today. Because they're seeking things that they can see, that they can feel and hear. That's what they're dependent on. But those things don't last. You gotta focus on what's spiritual. That's eternal.
Yes.
And that was always going to look over you.
And when you focus on the spiritual, God prepares you. Yes.
Yes.
And there's certain things that God is trying to prepare people to do as we approach these last days. So let's talk about Noah. Okay. The Bible talks about the last days will be the same as the days of Noah. In the days of Noah, they didn't have electronic devices. They might have, but they didn't have a lot of the things that we have now. Do you feel that children of God, that Christians have gotten comfortable and they don't understand that we are actually living out I don't think they understand that the Bible is a map and God is guiding us through that map. And that means that you don't get a map unless you're headed on a destination. Do you think that God is sending his Christians out?
Absolutely, because he says he's not coming back till everyone had the opportunity to know him. And to know him is to either you're going to choose him or not choose him. In order for that to happen, his followers, his believers have to be dispersed, spread out around the world to deliver the message, to give, to know him or choose him or reject him. And that's the only way I see that happening is spreading us out and making us uncomfortable where we are to get up and go.
But you don't have to be uncomfortable if you're listening.
True, absolutely, yeah. But some of us are not listening.
So how do we listen to God? How do you begin to tell people that saw their grandparents go to church on Sunday, go home, cook Sunday dinner, get ready for family to come over? That is what Christians are used to. How do you tell them, hey, that's not the type of Christian you're going to be?
Well, I think that's maybe at the foot of the new generation. The generation I came up with, yes, we went to church every Sunday, had the Sunday dinners, and all things you talked about. But only a few of us want to seek more. Get away from that religion and start developing a relationship. Because religion have you doing things without even thinking about it. You don't know why you're doing it. I heard one pastor say once before, some people back in those days just left their brain at the altar and just stopped thinking, just went on just do religion, the mundane, do this, and get that, and that. But no, that's just religion. We need a relationship. And some of that time want to seek more, but not as many as it should be, because a lot of us still stuck on that old way, that old religion. So it's gonna be up to those who are willing to seek more, and the next generation who will question why we doing this. This makes no sense. Why are we doing this? They want to know more, and in doing that, they come to know Christ. They start to establish that relationship. They talk to him more.
Yes, because it's going to be a lot of people that are going to ask, why me? Why does my generation have to